many Louisianians read the stories about the welfare fraud in Minnesota and, frankly, in other states, and it makes them nauseous. I feel the same way. That's why I have been working for years, literally years, to target welfare fraud, especially the fraudsters who conduct fraud in the name of deceased Americans. In 2023 alone, for example, the federal government sent $1.3 billion, not million, billion. The federal government sent...
What you're about to see is the kind of moment that makes Washington nervous, because this is what happens when the paperwork starts talking louder than the talking points. Senator John Kennedy didn't just walk into this hearing to trade speeches. He came in with facts, numbers, and a line of questioning that made it much harder for the people in charge to keep the real story buried. And once the evidence started coming out, the entire tone of the room changed. This wasn't just another political argument. This felt like the moment the cover story started cracking in public. If you've ever wondered how government agencies move money, hide behind language, and hope nobody follows the trail closely enough to ask what really happened, stay with me, because this clip may be one of the clearest examples yet of Kennedy forcing hidden details into the open. Watch carefully, because the documents, the hesitation, and the reaction tell you far more than the polished answers ever will.
Mr. Duncan, every now and then I see an article that says something like federal government spends $25 million to study whether a man can breastfeed. Or the federal government spends $50 million to try to teach a neighborhood squirrel to code. And I think, how did that stuff get in there? I sit on the Appropriations Committee. We're supposed to put together a budget. Sometimes we do. This year we probably won't, because my friend and colleague, Senator Schumer, wants to shut down the government, to create chaos, to try to get the Graham-Plattner wing of his party to love him. But I digress. That stuff's not in the budget when we vote on the budget. Where's it come from?
Well, Senator, I appreciate the question, and you've been a champion on these issues, and I would note your work on the rescissions process, highlighting some of these outrageous spending we've seen in the past. So I think this is why our updates to 2 CFR, which governs grant making across the federal enterprise, is so critical.
Yeah, tell the American people what that is.
Absolutely. Appreciate the opportunity.
Like you're talking to a 10th grader.
Appreciate the opportunity to. So fundamentally, some of the most important things are to ensure that grants are not going to divisive DEI ideologies. They're not going to support illegal immigration. They're not going to support radical gender ideologies. Those are pretty fundamental.
And stupid stuff, right?
And stupid stuff generally, yes, sir. I think the arbiter of ensuring that things do not go to stupid stuff, as you put it, is ultimately a political appointee. One of the president's people that is associated with the administration, appointed by the president, comes in and does a final issuance review before grant dollars go out. That's fundamentally about accountability. It's not intended to usurp peer review or anything like that. It's about making sure that
Let me stop you for a second, Mr. Duncan, because we're going to run out of time. Congress never sees this kind of spending porn, does it, until after the fact. Is that correct?
Senator, that's correct.
It's not in our budget. Is that correct?
Senator, that is correct.
But somebody in the administrative state decides that they ought to spend $25 million to study whether a man can breastfeed. Right?
Yes, sir.
Now, that's what I mean by stupid stuff. Do you consider that stupid stuff?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
And what you're going to do at OMB is try to stop the stupid stuff. Try to find out who made that grant and say, no. We're not going to spend money on this. And by the way, if you do it again, you're fired. Is that right? Absolutely. That's what you guys are going to do?
Yes, sir.
It's about time. Thank you.
Sure.
All right, let me ask you one other question. When moms and dads lie down to sleep at night and can't, right now, at this point in time, what's the first thing they're worried about?
I would imagine it would be the ability to support their families.
Yes, sir. Cost of living. Part of that's inflation. Look, I don't, I mean, I remember inflation's very sticky. I remember when it started, it got up 9%. You know, President Trump didn't father this child, but he's got to raise it. Cost of living. Thank you for being straightforward. Now, have you ever gone to let me preface this by saying, I've got two doctors, brothers who are doctors, so I love healthcare providers. But have you ever gone to a healthcare provider and then you get a bill saying you owe us $1,400? And you go, what the hell? Has that ever happened to you?
Yes, sir, it actually has.
It's happened to a lot of Americans because the way many of our hospital or healthcare providers bill makes no sense. And so they turn it over to a collection agency, and the collection agency says, look, you pay this $1,400. We can't explain, we won't explain to you how it got here. If we did, we'd have to drown you in the Pacific. But if you don't pay it, we're going to turn it into the credit rating agencies and ruin your credit. Now, why don't, if we want to help the American people, why don't we, at least for a period of time, say health care debt is not going to be reported to the rating agencies? It's not, we're not saying you don't have to pay it. We're not saying it's not due. We're not saying you can't be sued. But this debt's being reported to rating agencies when people can't pay it, and then their credit gets ruined, and it makes it even harder for them to live. That's a swell idea, isn't it?
Senator, I think the administration has been very committed to price transparency and ensuring that.
Yeah, but
folks
what
aren't
about
hit with
that
this.
idea?
I'm happy to take that back and determine the administration's position on that matter.
How about it advocating for it?
I'm happy to work with you on this matter, absolutely.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, or Mr. Secretary, I think you're one of President Trump's best appointments. And I'm very impressed with the team that you put together. And I hope you're all willing to serve a long, long, long time. I agree with my friend Senator Coons. I think we need to look ahead. But I would be remiss if I didn't say this. As I might have mentioned before, I used to have a beagle named Roger. Loved him to death. He passed after 15, got a lot of years with him. But Roger, like all the beagles, would run off. He was incorrigible. And sometimes he'd come back a roadkill. And he'd hide it under my back porch. And what I saw in the last 30 days at the Department of Energy under the past administration looked like something Roger kept under my back porch. $78 billion, not million, $1 billion, as best I can remember, was shoveled out the door. And y'all had to clean it up. I'm not saying they were all bad grants and loans, but I'm saying a bunch of them were. And I just couldn't let that go without saying it. Now, I thought I heard you say, correct me if I'm wrong, that you see in our near future small modular nuclear reactors. Can you elaborate on that, or did I misunderstand you?
No, you are correct, Senator. Under one of President Trump's executive orders last year, was to see if we could get small modular reactors, next generation reactor designs, critical, meaning running the full nuclear system by July 4 of this year, our nation's 250th birthday. And I sit here today, we still have 2.5 months for that date, but I believe we will have multiple small modular reactors critical, meaning running their full nuclear system before July 4 this year. I could not be more excited about that. This is a next generation of nuclear energy where when you can build things small, meaning build as much as possible inside factories, you can drive down costs, you can drive up efficiencies. I think we truly are going to launch a nuclear renaissance during this administration. I think it's going to have enormous benefits around our country. I couldn't be more excited about it. And I could go on forever, so I'll stop.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Look, this is not a news flash. To some extent, our grid is a mess. We've made some strides in clean energy, wind, solar. We can't get them hooked up. You didn't father that child, but you got to raise it. What are we doing? What can Congress do to help?
I think there's challenges.
Do we need more transformers? What's the problem?
We need more transformers. We need more switchgear. We need more electrical equipment and electrical steel built in the United States, which is part of our supply chain efforts to build more of these equipments here. We need to apply artificial intelligence to these grid studies that you have to do when you put a new source on. They take years. That's crazy. But with artificial intelligence and I think some more common sense regulation, we're going to speed up these grid studies dramatically and prioritize of all the things that have their hand in the air to connect to the grid, which ones are going to be effective and reliable and improve the operation of the grid and help drive down the prices, and how can we get them approved and actual connection as quickly as possible.
My last question is about AI and quantum computing. Look, I'm very proud what American companies have done in artificial intelligence. I do think we're ahead of China, and what people don't like to talk about in China is AI is supposed to tell you the truth. In China, AI can tell you the truth, except they can't criticize the Chinese government. In the long run, that's going to bite them on the elbow. I support AI. I think it's going to make our lives better if it doesn't kill us first. I don't know what to believe about AI. A lot of the smart people talking about AI also are trying to sell an IPO. And I'm not saying they're not telling the truth, but I think they're trying to sell an IPO. I would strongly encourage you and your team the American people are plenty smart, but they're busy earning a living, to try to explain to them in basic terms, and frankly to Congress, how AI can be applied to energy production to make it more affordable and more efficient. Most Americans understand artificial intelligence, at least the general concept. They just don't know what the hell to do with it. And you don't need to comment on that, but you and the big brain sitting behind you, if you could do that for the American people, just centered on energy, and frankly do that for the members of Congress, you all deserve a pay raise.
Great advice, Senator. That's two takeaways I have from today that we will indeed carry out and we will deliver on at the department.
Okay.
I want to comment. I think you've just seen some political theater that's been demonstrated here with a lot of people that are up for nominations for the judiciary. I think I'd like to quote Justice Jackson on another point when she was asked about January 6th during her nomination. Quote, "It would be inappropriate to me to publicly weigh into any subject of political debate, end of quote. Senator Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations, Judge. I think we ought to clear the air here. We all know what's going on. President Trump believes passionately that he won the 2020 election. And you're being asked these questions in hopes you will say that he didn't. Or in hopes that you will say that he did. Regardless of what you actually think, the further hope is that it'll cause the president to twist off and pull your nomination. And that's what's going on here. I'm not saying my good friend doesn't have the right to do that. Some would say it's kind of clever, but I don't think we ought to kid ourselves about what's going on. Number two, my job, I don't, this business of confirming judges has become too much of a shirts versus skins game for my taste. If I could change it, I would, but I can't. Picking somebody for the federal bench is as serious as 4 heart attacks and a stroke. You're there for life. We better get it right. And my job is to be in, as I see it, is to be an equal opportunity antagonist. Now, some would use another A word to describe me. And I realize that. But that's my job. And the two biggest things going for you, Judge, I don't know. You have read your resume, it's impressive. Or John Hoeven and Kevin Kramer. If they tell me you ought to be on the Court of Appeal, I believe them. Because they understand the role of a United States Senator. There are a couple of questions I want to ask you. Why did you? I heard your answer to Senator Durbin, but you were a sitting federal judge, and I know some other judges joined you, but you wrote a letter to Columbia saying, because of what I see happening at Columbia, I'll never hire one of your graduates. Why did you do that?
Senator, I was asked to sign the letter. It was indicated over a period of time. And the reason why is because it wasn't simply a student protest that was occurring. It was a protest that was resulting in violent conduct.
Well, I know what happened. I guess what I'm getting at is our federal judiciary has lost some of its legitimacy. I'm not laying it at your doorstep, but it has. And so many Americans now feel, because they're told, that judges are just politicians in robes. Okay? They're just mini legislatures. And that's not what our founders intended, and I don't think that's what they are. And so when a federal judge expresses a political opinion like you did and your colleagues did, how does that help our effort to help the public understand that judges aren't politicians?
Senator, I've been told a lot that federal judges have a lot of power, and you've said it, I think, in other hearings and contexts. But our power is limited. It's significantly limited to the case or controversy before us. We don't have the power of an executive. We don't even have the power to change laws like you do as a legislator.
I get that, Judge, and you're a judge. You can do what you want. I hope you won't do something like that again. I'm not saying you don't have the right. But when you adopt a political position, which I happen to believe with, frankly, to do that as a private lawyer is one thing. To do it as a sitting federal judge is quite another. And I just don't think it's a good thing. That's my personal opinion. You don't tweet anymore, do you?
I do not.
Okay. You don't go on social media at all?
I go on social media to follow other people, including...
Sure, but not to post.
Not at all. In fact, I think I know the name of your elliptical.
Yeah. Margaret and I had a date Sunday night. She won.
In the carport.
In my carport. She won. Thank you. I'm over. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
So this boils down to three big questions. What was the main goal? What did it take to accomplish that goal? And are Americans willing to pay the price if more is required to achieve that goal? Joining me now is Louisiana Republican Senator John Kennedy. Senator, thanks for being with us here today. Let's get your reaction. From what you know so far to this memorandum of understanding, what is your reaction to this potential deal?
Well, here's what I know, Will. All day long, members of the media in Washington have been running around like lizards on a hot rock. What do you think about the agreement? What do you think about the deal? What if the deal says that? What if the deal doesn't do this? And I'll tell you what I told them. If you don't know, shut up. None of us have seen the document. Here's what I do know, based on what we've done and what the President and Vice President have said. I know that the Strait of Hormuz is now open. The blockade on both sides has been lifted. I know that the price of oil and therefore the price of gasoline is coming down. I know that the document is conceptual, about a page and a half. It's basically a deal to make a deal. I know that Iran is immeasurably weaker than it was a year ago. We have bombed the crap out of them. There are huge swaths of Iran that look like something out of Mad Max 4. Iran has never been weaker. We've destroyed most of their nuclear program that we know about. Their fissile material, most of it anyway, is buried underneath the earth. We've destroyed a lot of their missiles and their drones and their production plants. It'll take 20 years for Iran to recover, and I don't know where they're going to get the money. China's not going to give it to them. We're not. Russia won't give it to them. Now, here's what I don't know. Will Iran make a deal? I don't know. Based on their history, we may be wasting the next 60 to 90 days. These religious zealots that run Iran, they learn to lie before they learn to talk. They think they're on a mission from God. They do. They're crazy as a bedbug. And in the past, they've always lied and refused to cooperate. But if they don't cooperate, we have devastated that country so badly. They have no air defenses. We can fly anywhere we want to. If they start their nuclear warheads program again, we will know immediately, and we can bomb the crap out of them again. And I think the world is safer after what America has done, and that's just my opinion.
So really quickly, Senator, it sounds like you know this as well as I do, Senator. There are some critics, not just within the media or on the left, but on the right, and right there, not just in the media, but around you on Capitol Hill, Republicans who are concerned about what they know of as the potential details of this deal. It sounds like your response is, look, mission accomplished in many of the ways that was laid out. Iran has been set back 10, 15, 20 years. And if the strait is now open, even if they don't live up to a deal or the deal doesn't live up to your expectations, we have in many ways accomplished victory?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I've never thought that we would be able to get their fissile material without sending in American troops. And I was very hesitant about that. I've never thought Iran's going to step up and say, okay, you're right, we're giving up our ambition to have a weapon. And if they said it right now, I wouldn't believe them. Look, their limits to what we could do, but we did what we needed to do. And let me say it again. Iran looks like something out of Mad Max 4. They're a lot weaker than they were, and therefore the world's a lot safer.
All right, Senator Kennedy, I think we're going to continue this conversation. I appreciate it, and I think we need to bring clarity on what was our objective, what was accomplished, and if the objective was something more for many of the critics, what would be required in terms of investment to accomplish what you don't like in this potential deal. We'll continue this conversation. Senator Kennedy,
and that
thank
is
you.
exactly why this kind of hearing hits so hard with viewers. Because once the evidence starts surfacing, the conversation changes completely. It stops being about spin, and it starts being about whether the public was given the full truth in the first place. That's what gives a clip like this real power. People can forgive political fighting. They can ignore rehearsed talking points. But when it starts to look like key facts, records, or decisions were being buried until somebody dragged them into the light, that creates a completely different emotional reaction. Now, viewers aren't just watching another Senate exchange. They're watching what feels like a public unmasking. And once that feeling sets in, retention goes up because people want to know just how deep the problem goes. They want to see whether Kennedy really found the weak point in the story and whether the people on the other side can do anything to recover from it. That's why the strongest Kennedy videos are usually not the ones with the most technical detail. They're the ones where the audience can feel the pressure building in real time, a pause that lasts too long, an answer that sounds too polished, a number that suddenly doesn't match the explanation, a document that changes the meaning of everything that came before it. Those are the moments that make viewers stop scrolling and stay locked in. Because deep down, they're not just reacting to the senator, they're reacting to the possibility that the official version of the story may be collapsing right in front of them. And when a video creates that feeling, it becomes much more than a hearing clip. It becomes a confrontation between the public story and the paper trail behind it. That is also why this title has strong click potential if you package it correctly. It's a disaster works because it creates immediate urgency, but the real retention comes from quickly proving why it's a disaster. Show the audience the records, show them the numbers, show them the line that changes the meaning of the hearing. If the first 20 seconds immediately deliver that payoff, people are far more likely to stay. And that is the only honest way to push toward big numbers. Not by making the title louder, but by making the first minute impossible to click away from. So now I want your take. Did Kennedy really uncover evidence they didn't want people to focus on? Or did this hearing simply expose how fragile the official explanation already was? Drop your answer below, because once viewers start connecting the statements to the paper trail, the people behind those decisions can no longer assume the public isn't paying attention.